Indeed, welcome to Birmingham, the home of Thomas Shelby, Brummie Bull, and the birthplace of Richard Hammond.
I'm from Birmingham.
Today we're going to cycle from here to Shrewsbury, along Route 5 and Route 81 of the National Cycle Network. We're starting our journey here at Brindley Place in Birmingham city centre, a former industrial area on the edge of the Birmingham Main Line Canal. It was rejuvenated in the 1990s with the shops and offices that we see today. It's named after James Brindley, the engineer of the first canal that linked Birmingham to Wolverhampton, which is the next city that we're aiming for. From here we're going to use Route 5 of the National Cycle Network to make our way to Smethwick. Here we'll switch to Route 81 and continue our journey through the Black Country all the way to Wolverhampton city centre. We'll then head from Wolverhampton towards Telford, and finally from Telford to Shrewsbury, all using as many traffic-free routes as we can. Route 5 is on the opposite side of the canal, so we need to make our way over and start to head northwest along our route. As you can imagine, not being far from the city centre, this section of towpath can get quite busy, so do be careful as you go down here, and a bell is a must. After passing under the Birmingham Inner Ring Road, you'll notice that the canal becomes absolutely arrow straight. And if we look at a map of this section of canal, we can see a couple of curious canal loops coming off this very straight section of canal. The original canal, designed by James Brindley, followed the lay of the land as much as possible, so meandered its way out of Birmingham through the Black Country and to Wolverhampton, with quite a few locks along the way and only a towpath on one side. By 1824 it was apparent that something better was needed. Thomas Telford was appointed chief engineer to improve the canal between Birmingham and Wolverhampton. He used huge embankments, large cuttings and tunnels to create a much straighter route to Wolverhampton, cutting over 7 miles off the route, also significantly widening the canal and adding a towpath to both sides most of the way. This canal was the motorway of the 1800s, and it cut through the route of the old canal, creating these curious loops off the main line. Because of these many canal loops and the extensive canal network in Birmingham, you may have heard people refer to Birmingham as the Venice of the North.
People from Birmingham are always saying it's the Venice of the North.
When we reach Smethwick, it looks as if the canal splits into two, with a left and right fork. In fact, the right fork is the original route of the James Brindley Canal, which goes up and over the Smethwick summit using a number of locks. The route on the left is Thomas Telford's new route, which uses a large cutting to make its way through the Smethwick summit, getting rid of the need for any locks and thus speeding up traffic flow through this section. We crossed the old canal here on a bridge that was put in by Thomas Telford as part of the improvements to the canal here. It was cast just up the road in Tipton at Horsley Ironworks and is Grade 2 listed. As we carry on towards Bilston along this incredibly straight section of canal, we come to a bridge which is fairly inconspicuous, but I noticed the name on this bridge was Watery Lane, and that rung a bell. In the BBC One series,
Peaky Blinders,
Watery Lane was the home of the Shelby family, and it was indeed a real street in Birmingham. But it was actually in the Small Heath area of Birmingham, not here in the Black Country, so it isn't the same lane, but it did remind me of the show, especially as the Peaky Blinders were regular users of the canal network around Birmingham. And staying on the Peaky Blinders theme, a little bit further up the canal, after we've crossed over and gone past the only set of locks on the stretch between Birmingham and Wolverhampton, we come to a junction called Factory Road Junction. This is where the Dudley Canal meets the Birmingham Main Line Canal, and if you were to follow the Dudley Canal, you'd make your way through Dudley, down to Brierley Hill and to Stourbridge. But also you'd pass, not far from here, the Black Country Living Museum, where a lot of scenes from Peaky Blinders were filmed, due to it authentically recreating how life was here back in the early 1900s. At this point, I'll be missing a trick if I didn't tell you to subscribe.